Hello and welcome to another fun-filled nonsense retrospective. I'm your host as always, Rick. Joining me equally as always is Devon.
Hello!
Man, I remember when you used to do that.
Oh yeah. Hello and welcome!
Hello!
Yeah. I used to listen to a podcast where the host would always start with a hello! And then I just did it, and then I quickly... I did that for an enormously long time, despite having to edit episodes and deafen myself every time at the beginning, because I was incredibly loud.
Yeah, I also saw on the wave that it was basically just like a wine glass on its side.
Oh, yes.
Like, it clips and then it only just starts to round off.
Yeah. Bit of a blast from the past for you guys, much like what today's episode is.
Yeah. Today we're talking about 3DS games, our favourites and what we think were the most impactful. But before we get into that, let's go with our good old time-honored tradition of the nonsense, asinine hypotheticals. And do you have one for me today?
Rick. My favourite DS game of all time is quite possibly Pokemon Conquest. DS, not 3DS game. Very important distinction, because otherwise it'd be the top of my list. So with that in mind, what game, could be any game, that had no additional games, whether it be prequel or sequel, would you like to give a prequel or sequel to? Doesn't have to be a handheld game, could be any game whatsoever.
I was thinking about this, and it was a thing that I was thinking about, oh man, was it on the DS or the 3DS? And it turns out it was on the DS. Infinite Space.
Okay, what the fuck is this?
It's kind of got like visual novel elements, and when you get into space battles, you have a little fleet of 5 guys who may or may not have little fighters, which are basically just a thing that you have. You've got crew management, you've got a little Tetris mini game. Not really Tetris, but like you've got block stacking for installing your modules in your ships, resource management, just all of that. And on top of that, there's a generally reasonably good plot, in my opinion.
Okay.
It was made by Sega, and
of course
it was on the original DS. Yeah. It was on the original DS. I didn't know it was made by Sega until like after I'd played it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's one of those things that's actually pretty difficult to get hold of in the UK.
That's really surprising, because Sega usually makes a big fucking fuss about they made a game at the beginning of the game.
Yeah. They may have just been the publisher.
Oh, that makes more sense.
But yes, it was a very unique game, and I always keep like my mind keeps coming back to it. Oftentimes it's just when I think about something in space, or I get told the name of something or read the name of something out in space and realize, oh yeah, that's what this was named after in the game about space where you go around space.
Yeah.
But yeah, how about you? What would be your choice of mono standalone game to give a sequel or prequel to?
Yes, I've already mentioned Pokemon Conquest, so I've disqualified it from my answer just for the sake of fun.
Yeah, it's also a weird one in that it's part of a franchise, so it technically does have sequels and prequels.
No, because it's a spin-off. It's its own self-contained thing.
Sure.
Also, by that logic, my other game would be disqualified, so fuck you. Yeah, the game I want to have a sequel, actually, I think I'd rather have a prequel, is Lord of the Rings: The Third Age.
Oh man, that game was so good.
It was Final Fantasy X, but with a Lord of the Rings skin.
Yeah, exactly. I remember we had it, played it. It was kind of difficult in some sections, but also once you realized it was just FF10 and that you could just grind certain things up and that the dwarf was just fucking strong, like, it was great.
The actual best OP character is the Ranger, Elagost.
Oh, yeah. The one who's clearly not Strider.
Well, it's weird, isn't it? Because Strider's, or rather Aragorn, is split between 2 characters in the sense that it's both Berefor and Elagost, because Berefor is the Citadel Guard, which is basically what Aragorn turns into. But come to think of it, Berefor is a bit of a better one-to-one exchange with Boromir.
Yeah, Boromir. He even starts with a B.
True enough.
He even starts with a B and ends with a R.
I can't remember the name of the strategy game, but there was a real-time strategy game. I think it was Battle for Middle-earth.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Where you could create your own hero units, and I really smiled when I found out that the default creator character heroes that they'd put in the game to show you how they worked were the 6 members of the Third Age cast.
That's really cute.
It is. I loved it. I was like, yeah, that's a great fucking idea. But yeah, it's one of those where I think I'd want either actually, let's go for for a sequel. The thing with the Third Age is it happens at the same time as the movies.
Yeah.
So I think you could have a great... you end by fighting the Eye of Sauron, which is ridiculous, but whatever, it's a video game.
Yeah, this is also a game where you fight the Balrog alongside Gandalf, because apparently you follow the Fellowship through a lot of the game.
You follow
parallel to them.
You literally follow the Fellowship up until that point, and then you're pretty much at the same time. You catch up with the Fellowship straight up at Helm's Deep, because you're at Helm's Deep, and then you split again, and somehow you get to Osgiliath after Frodo and Sam are fucked off, but before any of the Fellowship get to Gondor. The timeline doesn't make sense, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those where I'd definitely have a sequel. It means it would have to have an original plot, but that's fine. Where it doesn't have to be the base cast. It could be a new cast of characters. It wouldn't matter. And the storyline would just be cleansing further evil. Because even though Sauron's gone, evil's not completely eradicated.
Yeah, because like a lot of the mercenaries that basically went to fight for Sauron still have cultures that need to be, dealt with in some way before they can be integrated into society properly.
It is one of the things that Tolkien is knocked for, in that the Easterlings and the Haradrim, are both evil forces of men, and they are very strangely Eastern, all of them.
Yep. Yeah, I'm laughing because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's fair. There's also a distinct lack of women in Tolkien's books. Yes, we know Eowyn and we know Arwen, we know Galadriel, we know they're all badasses, but they don't really show up much in the books.
Yep, and there's Rosie that Sam likes, and that's about it.
Oh, she doesn't fucking count. She's in the book / the film for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, and all she exists is to be told that, Sam married her.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's all I'm saying. That's what I'd want.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I want more turn-based RPGs, so what do you want from me?
My one for you is the 3DS was the rival system to the PlayStation Vita. Can you name even one game on the PS Vita?
Well, yeah, Dissidia.
That wasn't on the Vita. That was on the PSP.
Pretty sure there was a Dissidia on the Vita.
Well, I mean, you could play PSP games on the Vita if you managed to download it from the...
Because there was like 2 versions of Dissidia, and I swear one was the Vita one, because it was a bit of a sequel, and it included a character from the thing.
Nah, they were both on PSP. It's okay to say no, and that's part of the point of the question. In that
this isn't
the 3DS was such...
This is meant to be a hypothetical question, Rick. Not an actual fucking question.
It's one of those though where the 3DS was such a runaway winner of that generation of handhelds. Well, obviously, same with the DS versus the PSP. That this went so far beyond the crushing that the DS did to the PSP that people just don't remember the Vita at all.
Persona 4 Golden.
Yeah. Excellent choice.
I still swear there's a Dissidia game on Vita.
Nah, the Dissidia games are 2 for the PSP, 1 for the PS4, and obviously the mobile version.
The PS4 is a bit of a shit game because they literally just ported the arcade game.
Oh yes, and not well. I'm sure it's a reasonable port, it's just not fun.
When was the last post on our Vita?
Probably recently, because it's become a hotbed for...
4 hours ago. I've got my PS Vita, but it doesn't turn on. But it does.
Yeah, the Vita has basically become a hotbed for homebrew in recent years. Like, people have found a way to just crack the whole thing open and just install emulators on it. And as an emulator device, it's fantastic because it was very powerful for its time.
I don't care. Have you got a real hypothetical question?
No, that was it.
So you didn't even prepare a hypothetical. You just asked me a question. Name a Vita game.
Well, the hypothetical was, can you name one? Like, can you?
That's not a hypothetical question. That's just a question.
All right, then.
You fucking bellend. I'm sorry, but god damn it.
Sure. Okay, so we're going to get into our top 5 of 3DS games. So, what are you going to start with?
I'm still mad, so you can start.
Okay, I'm going to start with Ocarina of Time 3D.
Fucking hate Zelda.
They didn't add much to this other than the fact that it was 3D. I think they changed the fishing game, but the fact that I never had an N64 when I was growing up meant that this was basically the first chance I got to play this game and experience what other people thought was so special about it.
I've got a question for
yeah,
you
it was
that's
pretty
not
good.
hypothetical in the slightest. Did you ever actually use the 3D?
Yes, I used it damn near all the time.
Why?
Because I had a 3DS and not a 2DS.
I also had a 3DS, but I always find that the 3D was shit.
Like, I liked the gimmick, so I used it whenever it was available.
Yeah, but it didn't work properly.
It worked well enough for me. I remember they turned it off in Pokemon Sun and Moon because they wanted all of the power that they could muster for running Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Not to be rude, but like the 3D actually wouldn't have made a fucking difference in that game.
Pretty much. Like, they had it working in X and Y, but yeah, it didn't make much of a difference because it was just an isometric game, and it didn't work in a lot of situations anyway.
You know what? You're going to listen to my list of top 5 3DS games and you're going to realise why I didn't use 3D.
Sure. But yeah, mine's Ocarina of Time 3D for the 5th one. How about you? What's your number 5?
Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright.
Okay.
Yeah, I like both of these franchises. I was surprised to see they got a crossover, and I was like, that's interesting. I played it. The crossover elements work fairly well. The story was dark. Like, weirdly dark, considering both base franchises.
Yeah, I mean, even Phoenix Wright, it almost always deals with murder.
Yeah, but I'll tell you why this one was dark. The very first trial was you meet a young girl. She's been accused of being a witch, because, by the way, you got sent back in time. Don't ask. And, you defend this poor girl, and she gets cleared because you find the true witch, who then is burnt alive in front of you in the courtroom.
Ah, yes.
It's like, congratulations, you got your client off. Watch us brutally murder this other person you accused.
Oh boy, yes. Yeah, they imply that a lot of the people that you accuse and convict end up getting executed, but they don't show it.
No, it's usually life in prison.
It depends. Like, for some people it's execution, for some people it's life in prison.
It's almost always implied to be life in prison because you can visit them later.
Like, Manfred von Karma's definitely life in prison.
Yeah, and so is a lot of pretty much everyone else. No one has ever explicitly said they're getting the death sentence if they get found guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And you've also got to bear in mind the Phoenix Wright games are not serious law games. They're literally meant to mock the Japanese justice system.
Including the one where they point out the reason that someone can't be convicted is because of the Japanese law system, which is why they introduce a jury for that one particular case.
Every single crime, no matter how severe, is decided by one person, the judge. Fuck off. Especially if the judge is the fucking competency level of the judge from Phoenix Wright.
Yes. The one where he just gets so shocked by every revelation.
Yeah.
and true to life, apparently, they are so far on the prosecutor's side that it's just a formality at that point by the time you get to court.
Yep. The Japanese justice system is fucked. Don't get caught doing anything illegal. Or don't get implicated in doing anything illegal, because the law is not on your side, ever.
No.
But yes, what about number 4, Rick?
My number 4 is a little bit similar to yours. This is the only game I ever bought on the Nintendo eShop for the 3DS. It's Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations.
Which one was that?
This was the one that introduced Athena Sykes.
The what?
You don't know Athena Sykes? She's the third attorney in the Wright Attorney Company. Alongside Phoenix.
Okay,
Phoenix
cool.
and Apollo.
Yeah, cool. This is after my time. Apollo Justice's first game was the last Phoenix Wright game I played, not counting the Miles Edgeworth spin-off, which was a bit shit.
Yeah, so I believe this is like numerically, this is essentially number 5.
Yeah, Justice got 2 games, if I remember.
I don't even know if he did. I know he definitely got 1.
You know what? He might not have gotten 2 games. I think he got 1 game, and then the 4th game was Phoenix Wright again, with Justice being his wingman, and then he got severely injured.
Oh yeah, that's what happens in this one.
So okay.
He gets injured in the first case, and you flip flop between playing as Apollo, Phoenix, and Athena throughout the game, and each one's got different gimmicks.
I feel like it's not fair being made to play as Phoenix Wright in that game, because at that point in Phoenix Wright's career, he's just legendary.
Yeah, but also he got disbarred in Apollo Justice.
Yeah,
and he's only just gotten his license back in this one.
Okay, let me
he's kind of legendary, but like his entire company is legendary off of his back, as it were.
But let me put it this way: where I'm getting at is in Apollo Justice, because you're not playing as Phoenix Wright, you don't get any of his goofy inner monologue, which means Phoenix Wright comes off as a legitimately cool badass.
Yep, you get the inner monologue of whoever you're playing as,
which is a shame, because it's easy to forget that Phoenix Wright is really fucking goofy when you're not looking at what he's thinking, including
even Apollo.
Gone.
Like, Apollo looks competent when you don't see that he's shitting himself every moment.
True. I guess it would be. I also absolutely love the... I can't remember if it started with Phoenix, but it's something that definitely got transferred between Phoenix and Apollo, in that they are constantly having arguments with their sidekicks over what defines a stepladder as a stepladder.
Oh, yes. Fucking stepladder.
It's like, oh, it's a stepladder, and it'll just cut to Maya going, actually, I think that's just a regular ladder.
Oh, no, I think it's normally the other way around. It's Phoenix that always points that out, that it's a stepladder.
Oh, it's so fucking dumb. It's one of my favourite running jokes.
Look at that ladder. It's a stepladder. And the other one being that they went so far in doing the jelly donut thing of making it sound like it's in America, but obviously it's not.
Oh god, yeah.
That it was they had to create a Japantown in America to make it believable that they have a Japantown in America.
Oh, that just hurt my head.
Yeah. It's this traditional Japanese village, and they're like, oh yeah, people moved here and liked having their own village, so they made this traditional Japanese village in California.
Yeah.
Our mayor is a tanuki, and the chief magistrate is a kitsune. They have fun.
Wait, literally, or do they just dress up?
They're themed, but one of them is implied to have actual powers.
Yeah, I mean, it's not beyond the realm of possibility in Phoenix Wright World, considering the whole gimmick with Maya Fey.
Yeah, like the Korean village and all that, yeah. But yeah, what's your number 4?
Theatre Rhythm Final Fantasy, Curtain Call.
Sweet, yeah. I never played this, so I didn't get it onto my top 5, but like, I don't know why, because it should tick all of my boxes. It's a rhythm action game. It uses Final Fantasy music. Like, these are boxes. They are ticked. I don't know why I never played it.
I don't really know what qualifies as rhythm action to you.
Well, it's just a rhythm game that you do things in.
That's every rhythm game.
Yeah.
So it's just a rhythm game. The action part is redundant.
Yeah, but they like to make it look like you're doing more than just, tapping along to a beat,
Not really.
Okay, they like to market it as if you are doing that. Even if you are just tapping along.
I just don't think theatre action is not theatre action, fuck. Rhythm action is a thing. I think it's something you just decided to arbitrarily assign to certain games. And yes, this is about the Helltaker argument, Rick.
Sure.
But yeah, that's something off camera. Don't worry about it, guys. Yeah, it's a great game. As you say, I'm a sucker for rhythm games. I saw a rhythm game for sale on the 3DS eShop that is super dead, rest in peace. So I bought it. This is the sequel to the original Theatre Rhythm. It doesn't really change much, except it now has Final Fantasy XIV music in it.
Yes. And you can recruit, 2 or 3 Y'shtolas?
I don't know. In the newest Switch game, there's 2 versions of Y'shtola. I don't remember there being any FF14 characters in the Theatre Rhythm, but this is how long ago I played this. I wasn't playing FF14 at the time.
Sure.
In fact, this game came out so long ago, the only tracks it had in it was from, specifically, A Realm Reborn. So, even the crap Final Fantasies have great music, as I've always said. I don't like Final Fantasy 13, but the soundtrack's sure good.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, I'll throw it over to you for your number 3.
My number 3 is Monster Hunter 4.
Okay.
This is it's not the first Monster Hunter that I bought, but it's the first Monster Hunter that I stuck with, because I had friends with which to stick with it with. When I played Monster Hunter on the Wii, I was doing it alone, and Monster Hunter on your own is
bothersome.
There's a limit to how much fun you can have when you're shit at it, and I didn't have the safety net to get good at it without friends back then, whereas with Monster Hunter 4 I did, and then I got to be hopefully acceptable at what we were doing. We never made it to the higher G ranks and all that, but doing the main story with friends was great.
I feel you. I don't think anyone plays Monster Hunter for the plot. I think people play the plot of Monster Hunter so they can get to the actual gameplay of Monster Hunter.
Oh, yes. This was, I believe, pretty much the last of the old in terms of you go around the map and you load into individual zones on the map, as opposed to it being essentially an instanced, not quite open world, but the whole zone being seamless.
Yeah, I get you, man. My favorite Monster Hunter, my first Monster Hunter was Monster Hunter World, so I immediately got told that, hey, hey, congratulations, all of these quality of life changes have been made to this game, and also they get around the issue of not having to play with friends, because you can just put out a beacon and people can just join.
Yes, if you're struggling, you can just let people join. And even the Palico, I feel like, was better in World than in previous games.
I didn't know Palico wasn't introduced in World. I thought it was the first time they existed, so boo me, I guess.
And yeah, they re-released it with other things, like there was an Ultimate version. They even put out the Circle Pad Pro, which was just an additional circle pad for the 3DS if you wanted to play it on a non-3DS XL.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yes, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is probably the most niche game I have on my top 5 list, and I think I've mentioned it before.
Sure.
It is Project X Zone.
Oh man, I remember seeing this.
I fucking loved this game. I picked it up randomly once in CEX because I just saw it and I went, that's got a Tekken character on the front. Oh, there's more characters on this I recognise. Why are there so many characters? It's a fucking crossover game.
Yeah, there's like Mega Man in it and everything, isn't there?
Yeah, it's Bandai X Capcom, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, and guess what, Rick? It's a turn-based strategy.
Good shit. Man, I remember seeing it and then never saw it cheap, so I never picked it up. But I was always interested.
Yeah, it's a fun game, it really is. There is a Project X Zone 2, which I never touched, and I discovered while researching this list. So yeah, apparently Project X Zone 2 has a better plot because it's related to not this game, but a different X Zone.
Okay.
But yeah, it's great. The basic gist of the game is units come in pairs or as solos. The paired units are the units you actually put on the map, and you can attach the solo unit to a pair unit to make a threesome. When you engage an enemy on the map, it basically becomes a mini fighting game. You need to put in your inputs to do your moves.
All right, okay.
So yeah, it's a real hybrid bastard of a game, and it can be really fun. It's especially neat discovering combos of what solo character to bang with pairs. Bit of a neat fact I found out while researching is the creator specifically didn't put Bayonetta in the game because because they wanted Bayonetta and Dante to meet in better circumstances, and they have since regretted that decision because Bayonetta and Dante have yet to have a crossover game.
Oh man.
Yeah.
What a damn shame.
It is. I don't give a fuck about Bayonetta, but Bayonetta meeting Dante would just be filled with memes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I recommend anyone who can get their hands on Project X Zone, which good fucking luck, should give it a play. It's a fun game.
Yeah, totally.
Rick, what is your number 2?
My number 2, I'm going to go with this one, hoping you go for the other one. A game that no one was really expecting to save its own franchise.
Oh, Rick.
Fire Emblem Awakening.
Oh, Rick, we've both put it at number 2.
Well, okay, since you put it at number 2, I'm going to go with the one that I thought you might have put somewhere, of SMT4.
It's my number 1.
Okay. Okay, I'll let you chat about that for number 1 then. So yeah, Fire Emblem Awakening. I put this over Fates because I have it. And yeah, I feel like I dodged a bullet with not buying into Fates, but I don't regret any time that I spent with Fire Emblem Awakening at all. It was my first Fire Emblem game. It was a lot of people's first Fire Emblem game. It was the first one that was out in the UK, pretty much, because the Wii ones were so damn difficult to find that they might as well have not been released at all.
Yeah, man. Awakening was also my first Fire Emblem, and it birthed a love in me.
Yeah.
God, that was a gross way of putting it. I'm sorry. But, you know, I fell in love the moment I started playing it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not the perfect game, but it's a very good way to get someone into that franchise.
Yeah, just don't look at the feet.
You can't.
But yeah, it's one of those where, for what it's worth, I liked Fire Emblem Fates. I liked playing all 3 of those games. I think Awakening is superior. I think Three Houses and Engage are also superior. But it doesn't take anything away from the fact that Fates is a good game, or a fun game. It's just,
sure.
As far as Fire Emblem goes, it's not the best one.
Yeah. So yeah, yours obviously being also Fire Emblem Awakening.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. I've got a hard-on for turn-based strategies, and can you already see why 3D was useless for me?
Yes, like so many things just don't have any depth of field in any way.
It adds nothing. It just makes the screen look blurrier than it needs to be. But yeah, Rick, we've both established. We already know what my number one is, but we'll talk about it in a minute. So, Rick, what is your number one?
Mine is Bravely Default. I love this series. It started essentially on the 3DS. They did have a Final Fantasy IV Heroes of Light that it's a spiritual successor to, but as its own series, it was a 3DS thing. And Bravely Second, being its second game, kind of gets rolled into it because the one after it is called Bravely Default 2, which implies that these two are basically the question and answer of the same arc, as it were.
Yeah, Bravely Default is a game I never touched, but it's got a rather unique mechanic, hasn't it?
Yeah, the two mechanics, well, the two things you can do in combat, other than just actions, are Brave or Default. If you default, you can save up an action for the future, and if you Brave, you can use an action that you either saved or borrow from the future and just be useless for a couple of turns afterwards. So a lot of the time you'll be defending and saving up for a burst turn, as it were, because that's normally better than trying to borrow from the future, unless you're sure you can kill something.
Yeah, I feel you on that front. I think this game, I already knew about that mechanic before even looking at the game, and I was like, I think this game is probably not going to gel with my personality type.
Sure. The thing that people didn't like about the first game is that to get the best ending, you have to basically play the game 4 times within the same save file, not even on New Game Plus. Like, part of the gimmick is time looping. So you have to go through the same map, doing the same events, with very little changes in what actually happens in the events.
That's fucking padding at its finest, isn't it?
Yeah, they did it way better in the second game. You only loop once, and it's to basically to avoid the bad end that is scripted.
Sure, but do they still have you repeat every single map?
When you loop back to the unwinnable opening fight, which is just what sets you on your journey, and you win the unwinnable opening fight, and you get put onto a B path, which goes straight to the end game. So yeah, they learned from their mistakes, and they did a better way of doing it in the second game. The music is also fantastic, and I still have it, but on my in my MP3 catalog to this day. And also, this is one of those rare 2D games where the 3D was great, because all of the backgrounds were like done in watercolors, so it just made things look really nice. You know how I was gushing a few weeks ago now about the cell effect in Black Cauldron of traditional Disney animation? Well, it feels like that quite a lot of the time in terms of where the 3D space is used. Actually, yeah, let's talk about it. And in case people were a bit concerned about Devon not saying anything, it's because my frickin' Discord call got hijacked by my mum's car.
Yeah, I heard some electrical crackling, and my words were, because Rick was in the middle of a word, I was like, oh, we might need to timestamp this, and then suddenly I was speaking to Rick's mother.
Yep. Yeah, as much as I tell it not to, the car hijacks my Bluetooth.
Yeah, and I was trying to technically assist in disconnecting, because she was worried that if she disconnected, it might disconnect you entirely, and I was like, I actually don't know if that's how it works, because Discord is weird.
Yeah, like, it's one of those. If she she eventually drove off, which put me out of range of Bluetooth. So yeah, it stopped.
She did hang up as well. We did agree that her hanging up was probably a good idea.
Sure.
But yeah,
fucking computers, man.
Yeah. Well,
so yes, let's.
Sorry, just as we were coming down from the conversation with Rick's mother, I got a message from Rick saying, "I think my headphones died," and I had to message, "It wasn't your headphones, buddy."
So yes, let's move into your number one, which we all know, SMT4.
Yeah, Shin Megami Tensei 4, which is the first SMT game I played of the mainline franchise.
Yes, same as well. We basically didn't get Nocturne. Most of SMT that we had in the UK was like Digital Devil Saga and Persona.
Yeah, I played the Digital Devil Saga, but I don't think I even played the main one of that. I played the DS version, which was a weird hybrid version of SMT, where, again, it was a turn-based strategy a la Fire Emblem on the top map, and when you attacked targets, you got the regular traditional SMT fighting gameplay.
Sure, okay.
It was very weird. Everyone had a clock above their head, and the clock would count down until they die.
Okay.
So very regularly the characters would have a sudden time limit on their head that said 3 days, and it's like, why are we going to die in 3 days?
Yeah, I'm assuming you could foil this in most scenarios.
9 times out of 10 it's because a demon was going to kill them, and you'd kill the demon first, and then your clock would go up to 7 days, and you're like, oh, what have I got to do in 7 days?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the first SMT that I actually played that wasn't a Persona was, I think, Strange Journey on the DS.
Okay.
Which was, you keep getting things from that. Like, you get the, I think it's the Diablos suit. The one where it's basically just an iron mask.
Okay.
Looks a bit like Ironmonger.
Sure. I mean, it's a trope in SMT games, even in Persona to a certain degree, where you got that guy. Usually he's called the Black something. In SMT4 he's called the Black Samurai, because that's what SMT users are called, samurai.
Yeah, the Demonica suit.
Cool. I believe even Akechi uses it in Persona 5.
Yeah, something similar to that. Yeah, someone's always got a black suit of some kind.
Oh, but yeah.
But yes.
SMT4. It was a fun game. It was a turn-based strategy. I love my turn-based strategies. I guess it's more of an RPG than a strategy, but whatever. It's fun. It's merciless. I wasn't expecting to have such a hard time in the first dungeon, but I did. And then the very first boss you have to actually escape the first layer of the dungeon is fucking Asterios, aka the Minotaur. And
yes.
He's not actually that much of a threat unless he is. It's basically your tutorial for, hey, your demons might not actually be well suited for a boss, so go away and come back later with either a different combination or just brute force it. Brute forcing it is almost always a bad idea. You want to combine demons that are strong specifically against the thing you're fighting. This does mean you will usually die to a boss at least once.
Yeah, because you need to scout it pretty much.
Pretty much, man. On the bright side,
I liked the idea of the starting island, as it were, the Skylands being so separated from main Tokyo that it sets a completely different feel to what the main game is, and then you get thrust into Tokyo. Like, yeah, it feels like, okay, why are these samurai all wearing like Western clothes, and why is the sacred gauntlet just a fucking computer? Oh, that's why they've secluded themselves from society for like dozens of years.
Yeah. It's one of those. What was I going to say? My mind's gone. Thank you, Rick. This game does have a bit of a lenience feature in that you can get a game over. Like, your entire team can die, including yourself. And because Karen is such a sweet and chill dude, he's just like, so you've died, have you? Well, I'm lazy. I can't be asked to lug you to death. If you give me some money, I'll just pretend I didn't see you, and you can just continue from where you got KO'd.
Yep.
And he's such a chill dude. He even lets you do it on credit.
Yeah. So as long as you don't go too far into the negs, he's okay with it.
Pretty much. Like, he's just like, yeah, you owe me 50,000 marker. It's like, you don't have that? All right, you owe me 50,000 marker.
And he's actually annoyed if you refuse his deal because he has to do his job.
Yeah, it's also like, oh, you want to game over? Oh, okay. It's fun in that regard. It also like reinforces how goofy the game can be at times.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think this might be the first mainline SMT that you can buy DLC for, and maybe I did the wrong thing by buying the EXP DLC.
You did. When you go on the DLC page for this, obviously it no longer exists because the 3DS store's fucked off. The DLC actually says this DLC is intended for people who don't have a lot of free time.
Yeah.
Because if you grind the XP stuff, or you grind the gold stuff, or not gold, the marker stuff, you very quickly get overpowered and the game is no longer a game.
Yeah. Tellingly, the EXP one can't be used for money, really, because the items that you use for EXP sell for almost nothing.
Yeah.
Even though you're against like allegedly high-level dudes that give you like a lot of XP and all that.
Yeah. It's one of those where, because of the nature of basically work-life balance in Japan, that's why they were convinced to release this DLC in the first place. But it's literally designed for the Japanese businessman who works 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, Fire Emblem Awakening had this as well. They had like EXP map and money map.
Yeah, but
that were both DLCs. Like, Nintendo didn't know what DLC should be back then, so they seem to have pushed all developers to just have, if you got an RPG, do an EXP one, do a money one.
It's a bit more forgivable in Fire Emblem because the Fire Emblem base game, the way you can grind is you can just buy an item in game for 200 gold to spawn enemies on a map.
Yeah, so as long as you've got some gold, you can do that, and you'll probably make more than that from from that fight.
You will.
Just hope that you're not on classic mode and don't lose anybody just grinding.
Well, yeah, but at that point you reset the map, don't you? It's one of those where it's why I like classic Fire Emblem, not classic Fire Emblem, new Fire Emblem, because if I was on classic mode where I lost units if I lost them once, especially in Fire Emblem Awakening and Fates where there is no rewind mechanic.
Yeah. Like Awakening, to be honest, both of them, because you have pair-ups. If you lose, I think Awakening, you've got a wiggle room of like 2 people. If you lose more than 2 people, you can't possibly have all the pair-ups.
Okay, sure, but I'm not even talking about that. I just mean in general, like, I can't stand losing options.
Oh yeah, totally.
The pair-up mechanic didn't mean fuck all to me. I didn't really care if I lost units based on that. I cared because I can no longer use Kellum.
Yeah, and you can no longer talk to him, and you can no longer like see how he interacts with people in social links.
Sure, but again, it's the gameplay thing. Like, it's because I play games and I'm like, oh, I now lack options because the game has punished me.
Yeah, totally.
And it didn't matter in old Fire Emblems, because old Fire Emblems had the basically characters joining you all the way up until the final chapter, specifically because you will lose people.
Yeah, you're expected to lose at least some people, and they offset that. They sometimes even give you the option to recruit like generic garbage people.
I don't think that's a thing.
I think it was the thing like on the SNES where you could get some garbage generics if you lose too many people and just need to fill out your roster.
If you lose too many people, you should reset your game.
Yes. Learn from your mistakes.
How much people are actually lost, how many people are lost in Fire Emblem playthroughs is so heavy that it's even caked into the story of, I forget the game it is, but it's the game that brought in the Jurgen trope of like, here's this super advanced class character that you don't want to use because he's actually really shit. Because at the end of the first map...
He's great now.
Go on.
He's great now, but if you use him now, he's just going to take XP away from the people that actually need it.
Yeah, it also had the Green Knight and the Red Knight trope of, I believe it's Cain and Abel.
Yeah, Cain and Abel I think is the first pair of them.
Yeah, so at the end of that first map, it's like someone needs to stay back and hold them off. This character will die, so you always pick Jurgen.
Yeah, you always pick the old one.
Yeah, it's one of those. Which, I did actually finish that game, but I've been told that the character you select at that point does come back later in the story, so...
Yeah, they used that for Flavia and Basilio in Awakening, didn't they?
Yeah, but that was a proper fake out as opposed to, no, this character is fighting for their fucking lives.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our top 5 list for top 3DS games that you can probably no longer legally acquire.
Yeah, and notably neither of us picked Pokemon. So yeah, if you liked the video, you've got the comment section down below on YouTube. If you're listening via one of the many audio platforms, you can instead send us an email, which would go to nonsensereviewuk@gmail.com. Once again, that is nonsensereviewuk@gmail.com.
As
always, if you've made it this far, you're our favourite people, and it's going to be a goodbye from me.
Yeah, keep buying turn-based strategies so they make more. Bye!